16 years ago, this baby was a little and poor newborn who was already abandoned among the flow of busy life and chaos. The lowly condition was not sure where to set adrift and did not know how to live. Then the magic spell came to her. Huynh Humanitarian Center, which was founded by Huynh Tieu Huong's mother, timely went to her rescue. Such the rescue was the same as the predestined affinity arranged by the nature, which gave her the right to live, be loved, enfolded, and protected like other countless lives. For over the past 16 years, in spite of many incidents, ups and downs already happened to Tieu Huong's mother and Huynh Shelter, as well as difficulties kept piling up by the others. The very baby named Huynh Tieu Huong has still been best cherished and cared for in the capacity of Tieu Huong's mother. During the period of 16 years, caring for hundreds of children and enduring the burden of meals, clothes, and money, which was tagged with the disturbing waves and winds, as well as pieces of the life's splendor, has already deprived Miss Tieu Huong of her prime of youth, health, and money, and added up her wealth, emaciation, and exhaustion. However, in return for the mother's sacrifice and hard work, the once innocent child has now entered the prime of beautiful teenage girl, in the prime of beauty and very diligent, showing up many special aptitudes, especially in the field of sports. The growing up of the age of discretion of Miss Huynh Tieu Huong, as well as the other 350 children bearing the family name of Huynh, has been also the most vivid evidence for the continuous growth of Huynh Humanitarian Center, for the relentless efforts and perseverance of Huynh Tieu Huong's mother during the past 16 years. Prior to the birthplace of Huynh, Miss Huynh Tieu Huong was a successful businesswoman, being famous for her beauty and wealth in the real estate business. By her sharp and cleverness in business, in the late 1990s, she owed a large fortune of up to tens of billions Vietnam dong, with thousands of cars for rent, thousands of square meters of land in the center of Ho Chi Minh City, and many rent houses. In 2000, Miss Tieu Huong was allowed to settle in the United States. At the moment, her life was like a queen, but the queen's heart was looking toward to the suffering and the unhappy. She always offers her wholehearted support wherever she comes to or whoever she meets, ranging from the poor in need of help, the wandering children living on the streets, to the lowly elderly heading to her for her help. There were many poor and pitiful circumstances which have been welcomed and nurtured right in her own home. Miss Tieu Huong often shuttles between Vietnam and the United States to both have favorable conditions for her economic expansion and timely help and share with several less fortunate circumstances. Additionally, Miss Tieu Huong has also actively joined in the humanitarian programs and events staged by the central and the local. In the year 2000, she officially became a member of Vietnam's Relief Association for Handicapped Children, Vietnam Red Cross Association, Vietnam Fatherland Front Committee. During the periods traveling with the humanitarian missions far and wide across the nation, Miss Tieu Huong dreams of setting up a socially supportive facility so that she can herself protect and take care of preschoolers in need of life. In 2001, after loads of reckless efforts and support from the central and the local agencies and departments, Huynh Humanitarian Center was established in Tân Phú District, Ho Chi Minh City. Initially, the center only gave its priority to freely receiving, caring, and bringing up disabled children, with the number of about 30 children. These poor and pitiful children even find their eating, drinking, and personal hygiene very difficult. But with love, patience, and perseverance, she and her colleagues have equipped them with the necessary life skills. The children are optimistic and confident in the bright future, with such the trades learned in the center as knitting, sewing, threading beads, and making bottled drinking water. They unite and love each other as the natural brothers and sisters in a big family. When the lives of these disabled children gradually stabilize, it is also the time when a new challenge keeps being imposed to her. Infants are so lovely but abandoned mercilessly by their natural parents. It is not clear the reason why. This reality keeps repeating and reminding her of her dream childhood and forcing her to make her quick decision of treating these children, not to let their lives treat like hers. Thus, Huynh Human Shelter has become the nursery ever since. The once little and quick children whose bodies were beaten by insects, the children who were left alone in the park, the hospital, and the market corners have now become the lovely angels of Tieu Huong mother. Ever since, Huynh Shelter has become the last lifebuoy to many abandoned children. Their lives have been reborn from here. And so the number of such abandoned children at Huynh Humanitarian Center has kept rising. Thus, Tieu Huong mother came to Bình Dương to expand the center. After initial difficulties in construction procedures, setting up the second facility, Huynh Humanitarian Center, the second facility, was established in Tân Đông Hiệp Ward, Dĩ An Town in 2003. For only about 30 children since its inception, so far, Huynh Humanitarian Center has been taking care of and offering free education to 340 children. The most visible hallmark of Huynh Humanitarian Center after its 16 years of operation is the maturity and the growing up of her children. When they were taken in by Tieu Huong mother, many of them were almost no longer able to survive their diseases or insect bites. But under the care and the protection of Miss Tieu Huong, the center staff of carters, teachers, and nursemaids, the children came to the schoolboys and schoolgirls, usually active and very mischievous, daily going to school as their other friends of the same peers. Every year, over 90% of the children's school records are good and very good. The disabled children who have the aspirations for trade study can be helped study the trades of motorbike repairing, sewing, point acupuncture pressing, knitting, bead braiding, and art, thanks to Tieu Huong mother's help. Especially the children who have their natural aptitudes for sports and artistic skills have been timely discovered and fostered by Mother Tieu Huong and other teachers. Thanks to that, the children of Huynh mother have always been shining in the events of ping pong, swimming, football, basketball, volleyball. And in any competition event, the children often bring home their high prizes, seeing them as priceless gifts to their mother. Especially Miss Huynh Tieu Huong has been the winners of the swimming and volleyball competitions for 3 years in a row, organized by Dĩ An Town and Bình Dương Province. To meet the children's needs of study and daily life to the maximum for the past 16 years, the material basis of Huynh Humanitarian Center have been constantly kept expanding. From the initial space of only 2,100 square meters and have been built by thatch, bamboo, leaves, and now huziwa with the children's board and lodging, as well as study under difficulty and inefficiency, up to now, the center's scale has been expanded to 12,000 square meters with such the spacious infrastructure as a cafeteria, a kindergarten, a trade study room, the housing block for boys and girls, a playground, a photo gallery of late top-ranking General Võ Nguyên Giáp, and a temple for Huynh family name. In particular, in 2015, the center has completed and put into use Huynh Preschool, Elementary School, and Junior High School with a width of nearly 2,000 square meters and 4 floors high with 20 classrooms, rooms, and dining room. With thus the spacious, sufficient, and well-equipped facilities, along with the dedicated care and education of Tieu Huong mother and her colleagues at Huynh Humanitarian Center, it can, all in all, be said that the children have been tasted or enjoyed the dream life of fairy childhood loaded with overwhelmed happiness. Making many social and charitable benefactions, bringing up the society's children, the job that sounds simple and is worth honoring. However, for the last 16 years, Miss Huynh Tieu Huong has tasted enough bittersweet experiences, entirely embracing her innermost feelings that cannot be easily told to anyone. In 2004, two U.S. newspapers, Việt News and Saigon USA News, distorted the good reputation of Miss Tieu Huong, claiming that she was a high-ranking agent of Vietnamese government and a spy relating to the propaganda missions by the name of humanitarian work. There was even an article which gave further hint that the orphans already admitted by the humanitarian organization are in fact the would-be victims of the sex industry, the illegitimate children of certain corrupt and decadent officials of Vietnam. In the face of such a baseless information which was insulting the honor, the prestige, and the dignity of a country, Miss Tieu Huong came to Borman and Quang, attorneys at law, and asked the two newspapers of Việt News and Saigon USA News to post their rectification information, but they did not meet her demand. And thus finally, she officially started proceedings against these two newspapers to the Supreme Court of Santa Clara County. Since then, she began pursuing the lawsuit in the United States. For the very 2 years, Miss Tieu Huong and her lawyers presented all the evidence of the authenticity, the truthfulness, and the righteousness in her activities, as well as Quê Hương Humanitarian Center, in the conditions of orphaned and disabled children who were brought up in the center, and in Tieu Huong's relationship with Vietnamese leaders. And finally, in February 2006, the suit was brought to trial. On August 16, 2006, Miss Huynh Tieu Huong officially won the lawsuit against the two Vietnamese newspapers in the U.S., that is, Việt News and Saigon USA News, because of already posting the distorted and baseless news. The two newspapers had to publicly offer their apologies by posting a notice in the front page in both English and Vietnamese to correct their false contents. Apart from the posted corrections for such the false information and defamation from these two newspapers, Miss Tieu Huong was also compensated a large sum of money, but she did not get it. As of her, the losing signatures of the two newspapers are the most valuable and meaningful compensation for her reputation. To the American people, Miss Tieu Huong was the first Vietnamese woman to win the two newspapers in the country. It was thought that after winning these two major newspapers in the United States, everybody will further savvy, sympathize, and share with her, but Miss Tieu Huong keeps facing bad information about her. At one time, a major newspaper in Vietnam posted the article named "Many Children Are Not Well Brought Up at Quê Hương Humanitarian Center," and Quê Hương Humanitarian Center was improperly found. Some say that she will not receive any more children. In the face of such unfavorable information, instead of explaining and complaining, Miss Tieu Huong has silently ensured and considered the caring, the children raising, and the center developing the most obvious explanation to the community. It was her unusual way of thinking that made President Nguyễn Thị Kim Ngân feel surprised, and thus for the first time when she visited the center in 2010, at the time she was Minister of the Ministry of Labor, War, Invalids and Social Affairs. Only when she came here in person and witnessed the children's life and activities, she could feel better and fuller about the heart and the effort of Miss Huynh Tieu Huong dedicated to the unhappy children. As of her, what she saw with her own eyes and heard by her own ears gave her a truly serene and gentle feeling and a better impression about a privately social security facility called Quê Hương. Thus, she did give Miss Tieu Huong her own heartfelt words of sincerity and affection. You are a fairy in the middle of the daily life. What you have done is hard for others to copy. From now on, you are no longer lovely at all. You always have me, and the whole social community stand by you. For the past 16 years, her joy is that she has been accompanied by regular benefactors such as Đại Dũng John Stock Company, Đại Phát Food Corporation Limited, Chấn Kiệt John Stock Company, Betensis John Stock Company, Đức Khải John Stock Company, Ly Quê Quê Saigon Food Industry Company, Madame Liễu Cooking Team in Biên Hòa, Đồng Nai, Madame Hương Cooking Team in Gia Kiệm, Đồng Nai. especially the concern of the cadres to the party and the state, such as the late top-ranking General Huynh Tieu, the former Secretary General Đỗ Mười, the former Secretary General Lê Khả Phiêu, the former Deputy Prime Minister Nguyễn Khánh, the former Vice State President Nguyễn Thị Bình, the former Vice State President Trương Mỹ Hoa, the former Chairman of Vietnam Fatherland Front Committee Mr. Phạm Thế Duyệt, the former Senior Lieutenant General Hoàng Minh Thảo, various ministries and departments, Vietnam Central Association of Red Cross, the social organizations from the central and the departments and the agencies in Bình Dương province. This has always boosted and encouraged her to have further faith and energy to more devote herself to the unhappy. But there are also many empty or virtual promises of some people which have made her life constantly stormy and miserable. This is the empty promise of Miss Nguyễn Thị Liễu, the big shot of the Martinist town of Hà Tĩnh. She promised to donate all of the celebratory money to her son's wedding ceremony, which is all worth 50 billion Vietnam dong for Huynh Center, and then she broke her word or promise. Or An Thiện Nhân, an Indian charity organization, a non-governmental organization from India, did pledge a donation of 70 billion Vietnam dong to the center's expansion of this infrastructure. Then Dịp Bạch Dương Property Company pledged a regular donation of 100 million Vietnam dong on a monthly basis to join its hands with the center in raising the children. These virtual promises have made the social community believe that Miss Tieu Huong is very financially healthy at the moment. Consequently, donations and support to the center have been gradually reduced. And thus, even many of her longtime friends and benefactors have gradually drawn chilly to the center or left it. The burden of full board and lodging for the children became more heavy to Miss Tieu Huong. In spite of a mountain of difficulty higher piling up, she and her partners have been determined to overcome this challenge. Miss Tieu Huong has managed to engage in sad loss of trading, such as trading wooden furniture, opening eateries to add more expenses to the center. Deep in her heart core, she always thinks that whether there will be the support of the social community or not, she is going to try to maintain Huynh Center by her own efforts. In 2017, due to her health reasons, Miss Tieu Huong has to go to the United States for disease treatment. Thus, some of the bad phones went on spreading the news that she went to the United States to fly from her creditors and defraud everybody. And some of the bad guys also say that Huynh Humanitarian Center has come to its days of collapse. There are even people who have made slander on her, adding the news of debt collection to the social network, while she does not even know who they are. Miss Tieu Huong feels really hurtful and painful, but she has no way to explain. The saddest of all may be the children's questions of, "Mom, why have people say that you are a bad woman and say that you are a rogue? I do not want them to say my mom such a way." It all made her heart further painful and hurtful. Only when the author of these articles, claiming himself a human journalist, came to the center to ask for money and then promised to restore the center's good reputation, Miss Tieu Huong and her children can now see through the story. On July 18, 2017, the suspect was extracted and handed over to Ho Chi Minh City Police, releasing the grievances and the unhappiness that Miss Tieu Huong, the teachers and the nurses of the center have already suffered from for such a long time like that. Because of this orphan and the quick conditions, Miss Tieu Huong has endured these favorable reputations for such long years. In spite of the rumors, the objection and the slander, Miss Tieu Huong says that these beautiful children need a mom, need to be loved, enfolded and protected. It is the only safety that is enough for her to iron out own kins, to offer the children a big family, a bright future and happiness afterwards. Now, after all the stormy waves come to her, Miss Tieu Huong has been still trekking through the humanitarian journey with all of her love and enthusiasm. The dream and the attentions are kept being implemented, such as building a charity hospital for the poor, opening an international school for her children, receiving another new facility in the 3rd Hamlet, Hàm Tân District, Bình Thuận Province, from the Cải Trang Stock Corporation, and then inaugurating the 3rd facility in Tân An Commune, Vĩnh Cửu District, Đồng Nai Province, to further open up many good life-changing opportunities to the miserable lives. For the last 16 years so far, Miss Tieu Huong's children have already grown up enough to recognize how their mom is. The last 16 years have been a long enough time for all the truth to be revealed or disposed. And in fact, the truth about Miss Huynh Tieu Huong and Quê Hương Humanitarian Center is so clear. A mother who has been devoting her lifetime to her children, a safe and peaceful home for the unfortunate and orphan children. Everybody believes in her, the society believes in her, sympathizes and shares with her. Perhaps Miss Tieu Huong just desperately needs this belief to have her further felt and motivation to keep writing down countless dream stories along the journey down the road.